What % of divorces are caused by low hormones? It's a lot.
I've had clients come and sit in my office and say that it's starting to impact their relationship and they know it. My husband doesn't irritate me anymore. There was just such this baseline irritation, like that they couldn't stand him anymore. And then they got on the hormones and they're like, he's fine. He's just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not him. It wasn't him.
If you've reached in a relationship, like a kind of a plateau, like a stable equilibrium where you're both, we're kind of roommates and like things are good. And then one of the two is like, I will eat you alive. It's not going to end well.
It's actually a problem that we don't recognize enough. And then we treat men with Viagra and, testosterone too. We're not treating women. And so we're setting their relationship up for turmoil.
I recommend with 100% certainty, if one partner, you have to put the other one on. Because otherwise, if you've reached in a relationship, that passion, libido is a part of that, but libido is also, it's chi, it's life force energy. And if you're not feeling that, maybe fixing your hormones and your mitochondria might be worth doing. And then we change how they're getting it. And it's like watching when you water a plant that needs water, like it just comes to life. And if you get the big things right, like hormones, it unlocks just a level of power.
You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey.
Our guest today has made a lot of strides around hormones and women's health. And one of the effects of hormones is, well, it kind of makes you like your life better for lots of reasons. And we're gonna go into that as well. So stay tuned for a masterclass on hormones. Dr. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now, why should men get way more hormone therapy than women? I mean, there's lots of reasons, but you must know them.
I love the sarcasm, because they shouldn't. Right?
I just want to see the look on your face.
I love it. Imagine if I were your doctor and I said that, no, you can't have testosterone until you stop making sperm for an entire year. And then we'll give you a tiny amount in a patch on your skin, which we know doesn't work. And we'll keep your levels about 100 picograms per milliliter. That's it, because testosterone's dangerous. Imagine that was the care that we gave you. But this is happening to women every day. The problem is you go to another doctor, not only is it not standardized, but there's no formulation that works. So we still use patches and pills and creams that, one, don't absorb into the body. Only 30% of patches or topical creams absorb. Pills are degraded completely in the liver. So only 80% of them, 80% actually gets metabolized into toxic metabolites. Well, so I think if you give her enough vaginal progesterone, she will convert and raise her testosterone levels to at least normal, to that 30 to 50 range.
And you've seen this in 100% of patients?
100%, tens of thousands of patients at this point.
That is
we treat
so interesting.
Tens of thousands. So as a 35-year-old, when I was going through it, I tried everything, literally everything.
This is for progesterone specifically?
All of them, because women need all three hormones. So really, nobody has designed or innovated on women's hormone therapy since the 1960s. And those were made by men. And nobody's really looked at women's hormones in a comprehensive way. You need estrogen for the gallbladder to even work, and that helps you go to the bathroom. So as you get older and you start to become constipated, it's not an increase in fiber that you need, it's estrogen that you need in order to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
So everything's interlinked. I mean, hormones are messengers in the body. They help everything communicate. They help everything function. I mean, if we just look at them as messengers, they're gonna help all of the machinery work. So there's not just like noise, there's actually like music going on in the body. This is what the hormones do. So you can imagine that nothing actually will function without the hormone. Mitochondria won't function. I mean, so the very, very basis, the foundation of health and wellness and longevity is hormones, because it helps the machinery. It tells the machinery what to do. Women need testosterone, just like men need estrogen. Estrogen's very beneficial for men. So we know the same for women. The problem is that the way that they're trying to get testosterone into the body, when you put testosterone on the skin, it converts to DHT and it will make your hair fall out. If you inject it, women have high aromatase enzymes that convert it to estradiol. Injecting testosterone feels much like the ultimate manifestation of be like a man, like be like a tiny man, which I'm not just like a tiny man. So I think libido, we tend to take what we know and we extrapolate for men and we extrapolate it to women when we just assume that we have the same drive or sex drive as a man. And I think this is unfortunate because the egg does not go towards the sperm. The egg sits and is very receptive. I mean, women's libido is receptive and open, and there's connection and bonding and safety.
I think you might not know some of the women I know.
There's that part too. So you can have the drive and you could, but
I'm just kidding.
I think women need to have all of that in order to feel like that. But the receptive part is really important. And testosterone will never give you that. So I think the ratios matter. Like women need 10 to 30 times more progesterone than testosterone or estrogen, for example. And this is the one that modulates and controls, a lot of it tones down some of the stimulatory effects of estradiol and testosterone have in the body for women. But libido, the limbic system is flooded with estradiol receptors. Estradiol behaves like MDMA, for example, too. It creates this kind of receptive nature. Yes, there's testosterone receptors vaginally, but in reality, progesterone and estradiol are foundational to women's libido, and we do not give them any credit. We think that testosterone for both sexes drives libido, and I think we need to give credit where it's due for estrogen. So, for example, when we put men on testosterone, an erection is like an obvious thing.
Yeah, you wake up with a kickstand, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, never heard of that called before, but it's great.
Women have it too. It's called a morning bean.
Is it?
Yeah, like patches generally don't work. Like everyone in our group who is on a patch with progesterone, it's like, why? It doesn't do much. Yeah.
And then pellets have a problem in that you can kind of creep up and they tend to make you testosterone dominant. So like you're like, great, I feel great at first. I have libido, like I'm starting to feel better. And then you just keep raising that and all of a sudden your voice starts getting deeper and
Do you really? It seems pretty. I haven't seen that.
In your 20s and 30s, because our bodies are younger, we do need more hormone. We need more of the messenger. We need more of the performance.
Yeah, you should have more. And I believe after a long time in longevity, when you're old, you also should have a young person's levels if you'd like to maintain your youth. So the idea that, you have the right levels for your age, like for your age is a curse words that should not be said. It's for the age that you would like to feel like is what we should be treating.
100%. Yeah, thanks for saying that too, because the formulations for women, like the patch and the pill, they were designed for 55 years old and above. They were designed to get you through menopause, give you a little bit of relief, get you sleeping, get rid of some of your vaginal dryness. We'll talk about vaginal cream in a second. But then it was truly meant to be like a year just to help you through this like transition. That's how we viewed this for women. We don't view it as like a longevity or foundational. And so that's the problem, is that we need to all switch the way we think about it. So if we think about it differently, that it is an optimizer, it is for longevity, it's for feeling more youthful and the best you can.
To not get Alzheimer's, not get diabetes, heart disease, all the stuff that hits women if they don't have enough hormones. Jeez.
So it's a no-brainer. Yeah. So instead of waiting until you're 55 and giving you these little tiny doses, which is what what we do. This is like how even longevity doctors and hormone replacement doctors think about it. So we need to completely change, flip everything over and look at, okay, a 30-year-old needs hormone replacement therapy. A patch and a pill won't work. It's not enough. It's not getting into the body enough. So how do we get her levels up to 1,000 or 500 or whatever she needs to be at?
Of which one?
All of them.
Okay.
So vaginal delivery, vagina, I guess, is like another superpower. Like it's a superpower for women. Yeah. But we tend to think of vaginal delivery as local only. And it's because of these FDA-approved low-dose vaginal creams that are tiny, tiny doses. Right. They were meant just to treat vaginal dryness. They were never designed to go systemically because the dose is so small. So you raise the dose and the vaginal wall is porous. It goes right into the bloodstream. Not only that, you get a first pass metabolism through the uterus, which is where the hormones probably should be metabolized. The uterus makes special metabolites. That's what's controlling that instead of the liver. I mean, it's, again, we're getting nerdy, but this is so important that people understand that not only do the hormones matter, the types of hormones, the ratio, the formulation, the metabolism. I mean, these are going to impact how you feel on hormone replacement therapy.
So you're a fan of vaginal delivery?
Of both progesterone and estrogen.
Okay. And what about testosterone?
So if you put testosterone vaginally, you can disrupt the microbiome. Progesterone converts to testosterone in women. So give her enough progesterone.
Interesting.
And let it convert, and her genetics will. So if she makes too much testosterone, which a certain percentage of women, just like men make too much estrogen. Women are going to make too much testosterone, and then you'll see their hair start to shed, or they'll start to gain weight or get irritable. Those are like the main symptoms of too much testosterone. And this you can just lower and block with supplements. I think the most common that younger women have are like mental, like anxiety and irritability and like a mild depression. So we even see this with all of the antidepressants and Xanax that are prescribed, and women will notice this first. I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't feel like I'm in control of my emotions, or they feel very like, and then they don't even have to have a sleep disruption. They just feel this underlying anxiety.
Wow, so you would put women on a vaginal hormone replacement before you'd put them on SSRIs?
100%. Yeah.
Wow, I love that you're saying that. I don't disagree, yeah.
Hormone replacement, like why would we lean towards something that's really hard to get off of? We don't know what we actually have more long-term studies on hormone replacement therapy than SSRIs.
Yeah, they're not good.
And you're going to get more benefits around the whole body, whereas the SRI is just going to manipulate the serotonin level. But what about everything else, like your norepinephrine and dopamine, and within neurotransmitters? No. Definitely, women should consider hormone replacement therapy before that. And then also, I would say that like gut stuff happens really early, so they'll start getting this like bloating, food sensitivities.
Isn't that like leaky gut?
And then they start trying to chase their diet. And they'll chase their diet for years. And they'll go to functional medicine doctors, and the doctors promote it.
So you're saying
let's just keep chasing this diet.
A primary cause of leaky gut is low sex hormones?
Yes, that is the cause. I would say
a lot of people have said that on the show. Okay.
Well, everybody says that, fix your leaky gut, and then you'll fix your immune problem. You'll fix your autoimmunity. You'll fix your hormones. They say that the leaky gut is the problem. But the leaky gut is caused because the hormones are missing. Estrogen, estradiol, and progesterone make mucin. They can make sure that the gap junctions are closed. They're telling everything what to do. So your gallbladder doesn't even function for women unless you have estrogen. I mean, literally your digestive system stops working.
Wow.
So they start chasing this.
In menopause, though, women have very, very low estrogen, and they all have digestive problems. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Okay.
But it starts much earlier. So like you see women in their 30s chasing their diet. Like, I can't eat what I used to. Not that we need to eat like we used to in our 20s anyway. We should change and have a better diet too. But this is what they attribute to something else. They'll say I'm gaining a little bit of weight and now I can't get that off. It must be because of my diet, or I'm tired, or the kids, or they have 100 things to blame it on. Instead of, you're not making any hormones. You can't even lose weight without the hormones.
What % of divorces are caused by low hormones?
I've had clients come and sit in my office and say that it's starting to impact their relationship and they know it. And then they start to act on it. And then they come back in and they're like, my husband doesn't irritate me anymore. There was just such this baseline irritation, like that they couldn't stand him anymore. And then they got on the hormones and they're like, he's fine. He's just God. You know what I mean? Like, it's not him. It wasn't him. It never was him.
So what are the most typical dietary changes other than not eating tons of fiber?
So the fiber is actually huge to reduce that, but the more protein intake you can do does overwhelm the COMT pathway and slow it down.
Okay.
So individuals with a fast COMT gene, if you increase protein intake, you can keep your estrogen a little bit longer, keep your testosterone a little bit longer. They will notice that they feel better. They feel more focused. They feel more calm. They feel like their testosterone can last that 24 to 48 hours till their next dose or whatever.
Okay.
So this is the biggest dietary change that people can do that's not so simple for people.
Yeah.
But it is actually that simple. If you were to do this, you'd feel a lot better. If you have more than one thing going on, that this is most likely hormonal.
Not mitochondrial?
So at the base of it, though, is hormones. So if your mitochondria are not functioning, longevity people love mitochondria.
I kind of have a mitochondrial fetish.
Oxidative stress. It's like so sexy. Inflammation, ATP, like they just love it. And I
talk dirty to me.
I love it too, right? But your mitochondria are not actually going to function or regenerate or work properly without your hormones.
Correct. They're hormone responsive, and they make some hormones too, right? It goes back and forth, and so it's a chicken and egg situation.
Yes, but we're seeing women with like autoimmunity, which we carry the bulk of that, like 80-90% of it. So the immune system is like an energy hog. It needs the mitochondria in order to work, and also the B cells and T cells are going to be really chaotic unless the hormones are helping it tell it what to do. So you won't see like these traditional perimenopausal symptoms in younger women. You'll see autoimmunity. She'll get Hashimoto's, lupus, like some food sensitivities. They start messing with their diet a lot. They have leaky gut. They won't love their skin and hair even. So they won't be sleeping. They have a lot of anxiety. We put women on antidepressants and Xanax.
Which is bad for your mitochondria, yeah.
So I think that we can look at these, we look at these really traditional symptoms for women. Again, we're kind of pigeonholing them instead of just being like recognizing the health that is not at its optimal state. So the 25-year-old, if she just doesn't feel like she's healthy, hormones do need to be looked at. Labs are not going to help because we have not established appropriate reference intervals for labs for women. There are like 5 papers in the entire world, 5, on what, if you were to say, what is the optimal reference range for progesterone for women? This does not exist.
Dr. Sarah, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Where can people find out more about your work and the things you make for hormones?
I'm online in 50 states, so at www.innerbalance.com. Okay. We treat only women, but we treat them in all 50 states.
You're helping a lot of people, and thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you next time on the Human Upgrade Podcast.